Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Juan's World, and this will be the second in my travel series. Today we're going to go to Hoi An in Vietnam, on the coast of Vietnam, roughly between Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. You can see on the map a little bit of the location. You can't see the northern part of Vietnam, see where Hanoi is, but you can see where Ho Chi Minh City is. You can see where Phnom Penh is. I met an old Oxford friend of mine in Ho Chi Minh City at Christmas in 2019, and she had this idea, which I considered harebrained at the time and still do, of journeying up from Ho Chi Minh City to Hanoi in a week, stopping at all the relevant places along the way and getting to Hanoi on Christmas Day. I managed it. I was really tight, but we had to take a lot of overnight buses because otherwise we wouldn't have time to spend in the cities themselves. So we took a bus overnight. I'm not sure, I believe it was from Nha Trang to Hoi An, and arrived at Hoi An at 6 in the morning. Very well rested, I must say. The overnight buses in Southeast Asia are variable, but this one had nice comfortable beds in it, and it was not a rocky ride in particular, and so got a good night's sleep. And getting there in the early hours of the morning, the only problem is, of course, that the hotel that we were due to stay at wouldn't check us in at that time, and so we had to wander around until they did. And so this is going to be in several parts. The first part is going to be wandering around the city, or the town I should say, in the early misty parts of the morning. So let's get into that. So here's just a few of many not particularly revealing photos that I took before breakfast on the first morning when it was still all misty. Not unpleasant in a lot of ways. I mean, very cool in comparison with the later parts of the day. So you can see the mist rising off the river. I'm going to just interject here another map. I've shown you the rough location where Hoi An is in relation to the rest of Vietnam. This is Hoi An up close, and you can see it's on a river estuary, and the most of the land around Hoi An is either riverine or marshland. Good rice growing country, and we'll see later when we got into the more interior river parts. But for the first day, we're just walking along the river within the old town of Hoi An. Hoi An goes back a very long way as a trading post, and you'll see that the vast bulk of the architecture is either Chinese or Japanese. Because they were the main merchants in this part of the world for centuries. And it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site right now because of the sheer beauty and antiquity of so many of the buildings within the old part of Hoi An. So after we had checked into the hotel and got our bearings, we were able to go back out and wander the streets a little bit more at leisure and with a little less mist and fog. And you'll see two things. You'll see, first of all, I'll show you some of the mercantile parts of the town where people just did their basic trading. And the streets are quite beautiful but narrow. No road traffic of any sort in any parts of the old town. It's all foot traffic, and you've got Chinese lanterns all around, and what looks like old-fashioned merchant houses. And then you've got these elaborate temples, and they're just extraordinary. And they just pile one on top of the other, and you've got dragons and other legendary beasts, and tremendous art and architecture, and all extraordinarily attractive. When I first started walking around in the early parts of the morning on into the rest of the day, I actually thought that this would be a nice place for me to move to. It just seemed like a very appealing, physical, aesthetically pleasing environment. And the more I walked around it, the more I felt that way. The laws about moving to Vietnam are not quite so aesthetically pleasing. I never did it, but it was a most attractive day, wandering around, just taking in all the sights as best I could. And then the next day, my friend had organized us to go on a bicycle tour where we would get to go inland a little bit and see some more of the inner parts of that part of Vietnam, which we've done quite a bit of. I'm not sure why she's such a cycling fiend, but I ride a bicycle all the time, so it was okay. And we wandered around. You see here a rice paddy with a water buffalo in it, and lots of riverine scenes. But we also visited various artisans, including a boat builder, not surprisingly very important component of life in this part of the world. And at some point we landed at a rice whiskey factory. I've got a ton of photos of various people trying out the rice whiskey, and I think in this photo, which is the guide of the rice factory, she's pointing out that the dark, very big jug that you can't really see in, but I know full well there's a snake inside it. Dead, of course, but that's very, very common. There are a lot of what they call whiskey villages up and down Vietnam. They'll sell you all kinds of rice whiskey, and having a snake in the bottle is pretty much like standard stuff for tourists. Supposedly medicinal. Don't know if it actually does any good or not, and I've not tried it myself. I'm not that I'm afraid of it, but I don't drink. We also saw a textile maker, and had a really delicious lunch. And I'm gonna, in fact, end on that note. Here's the lunch we had, and as always, I'm going to wish you well and hope you have a good week, but ask in the meantime, please tell your friends, please like, please subscribe, and I'll be back on Friday with a location in Uruguay.